Hello everybody, Eric again. Like and subscribe. Here we go. Let's continue reading about the 11th millennium BC. Other cultural developments. Near East. There are several later Mazboth that exist today, mostly Nabatean ones. This book reveals that Mesoboth initially arrived in the desert during the 11th millennium BC. Became increasingly common starting in the 6th millennium BC, circa 8K, or 7950 BP, and maintained their dominance there until the early Islamic period. They typically outnumber people from the rest of the Near East by a significant margin. However, despite being well established in the desert for many millennia, Mesoboth did not become widespread in the Fertile Zone until the early 2nd millennium BC. The Kurta-type people principally obtained obsidian from numerous outcrops on the Bengal and Namrat Dag massifs around the late 11th to early 10th millennium BC. The information also points to a minor difference in the way these materials were transported, with Bengal B coke alkaline materials arriving at the site as part worked cobbles and /ore, perforated cores in Bengal A, and Namrat Dag percoline obsidian coming as cortical nodules. Quartet Tap and Gozahorak, two other very early Neolithic Anatolian sites, and the Tigris Basin may offer helpful analogies for some of the behaviors at Durikoli. The earliest levels at Kurtakatap date to the late 11th millennium BC, 10400 to 10200 Cal BC, through the transition of the Holocene to the Holocene, and Gosir is also likely to be equally early based on similarities to Kortak. Both of these sites date to the Epileolithic/very early Neolithic. The number and variety of Kurtatap's ornaments are noteworthy. Some were mass-produced in the tens or hundreds of thousands, and frequently included the funeral assemblage at the site. Zadaran Spitzer, 2016, deviated from this pattern, classifying the buildings according to their radiocarbon dates. Building level BL3 is the oldest, dating to the late 11th and early 10th millennium BC. Because of this, Kurtatap presents a unique chance to study the changes in subsistence and cultural practices that occurred at the Pleistocene to Holocene border in a single place. The goal of zooarchaeological research conducted across this boundary is to comprehend the extent of continuity throughout the site's occupation, the way that the local fauna was affected by this climate improvement, and the way that the Kurtatap community responded to these possible changes in their local environment and related animal resources. The hypothesis of close relationships with the Syro-Mesopotamian communities circa 6000 BC is reinforced by the recent discovery of a longitudinally grooved stone at Kosek Tip, which is an artifact otherwise known only in the Middle Euphrates and Zagros foothills from the 11th millennium BC, and a small number of painted pottery shards, a Hasi Lamzanal Tep. There is evidence that neighboring Anatolia and the Near East used native and mineral copper far earlier than the Balkans. The earliest known instance is from Shanadar Cave, an epitaphic burial site from the 11th millennium BC, where a malachite bead was left as a grave sacrifice. By the 9th millennium BC, there had been a growing amount of work done with native copper and copper minerals. One such site was Konurtepesi in eastern Turkey, which also produced evidence of native copper and nailing, although the utilization of this rich copper mineralization source has not yet been demonstrated. This hamlet was ideally situated close to Argani Madin. By 6000 BC, the Levant, Transcaucasia, the Balkans, Iran, and Pakistan had all adopted the usage of copper resources, extending beyond its original core zone in Anatolia and northern Mesopotamia. It is evident that there is a substantial correlation between intensive usage of copper minerals and agriculture, which has been explained by the significance of copper's green color in relation to agricultural productivity. The research conducted by Barlusov-Meyer and Peratt also demonstrated that the Near Eastern pre/Neolithic communities were not limited to copper minerals, as they also desired decorations made of apatite, turquoise, and amazonite, or serpentinite for their aesthetic quantities. There is evidence that the Near East and neighboring Anatolia used native and mineral copper far earlier than the Balkans. The earliest known instance is from Shenadar Cave, an epitaphic burial site from the 11th millennium BC, where a malachite bead was left as a grave sacrifice. By the 9th millennium BC, there was a growing exploitation of native copper and copper minerals, as demonstrated by the settlements of Koyunlu-Tepesi in eastern Turkey, which also produced evidence from native copper and nailing, though it hasn't been shown that prehistoric people used this source of wedge copper mineralization. The settlement was ideally situated close to Organic Medan's outcrop. By 6000 BC, the Levant, Triskogia, the Balkans, Iran, and Pakistan are included in the core zone of copper mineral use, which originated in Anatolia and northern Mesopotamia. Barlusov, Meyer, and Porat, 2008, have suggested that the high correlation between excessive usage of copper minerals and agriculture can be attributed to the potent symbolism of the color green in relation to agricultural fertility. The research also revealed that the Near Eastern pre-Neolithic communities did not only value copper minerals, ornaments crafted from apatite, turquoise, and amazonite, or serpentinite were also produced, and these materials were probably prized for their aesthetic quantities. Bye for now.